All right, Ayomide, thank you so much for joining us today on this particular episode. As a software
Thank you for
engineer,
having me.
it's actually great to have you as the first software engineer on this particular episode. You've been my friend. I think it's actually good to also have you in this particular episode of 30 minutes conversation with tech and design. So Ayomide, I think I know a bit about your journey as a software engineer. And I would love to ask you, do you think there is anything that is attributed to how you've grown, maybe when you were growing up, that have contributed to who you are and where you are today?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I think as regards to that question, I would say yes, there are definitely things that shaped my career journey. I always say thanks to my dad. I think it was kind of the person that sparked my interest in computers and technology basically, because he bought my first computer at the age of 12 or 13. So I had this desktop setup, and he also sent me to a computer school. So after I don't know if you know this, after GSS3, GSC, I don't know what it's called anymore, GSC or something. I went to this computer school for about, I think, 3 months or 2 months, where I actually learned design. That was my first introduction to tech, funny enough. I learned how to use CorelDRAW. And I basically started my career in design. I don't know if you can remember, there used to be this brand called Jago in Nigeria,
Yeah,
Jago Milk.
yeah.
That was one of my first projects at the computer school. I had to design that Jago son, and I did it perfectly.
Mm.
So I think it was from that moment that I had that curiosity in computers, and I think that kind of spiraled into wanting to know how computers work. So a lot of times when my parents are not at home, that particular computer, I would take driver, uncouple it, try to find out what each component is, dismount, put it back together, see it work and all of that. So I think that was my introduction to engineering. And that was when I kind of discovered I loved computers basically. And I love engineering.
Wow, thank you so much, Ayomide. Ayomide, can you tell us your incredible journey into the field of software engineer? You just told us right now that your first introduction to tech seems to be graphic design. So, how did the journey into software engineering got started back then, and what was it? What influenced it, and how has the journey been so far for you as
Now, what is funny is I didn't get into software engineering immediately. I kind of found my way back into software engineering. So because of my interest in engineering, basically, I had a flair for computers, and I was kind of good at maths as well. So the next thing was, I think you should just study electrical engineering. That was like the broad. Okay, my parents kind of saw that as a very broad spectrum, so it covers both computer, electronics, and electrical basically. So I studied electrical engineering. Now, funny story. I actually wanted to study computer science rather. But when I switched when I wrote my post-UTME at FUNAB at that time, my post-UTME result was blank science. So my dad kind of convinced me during my pre-degree that I should go for electrical engineering. So when I filled my next jam form, I filled electrical engineering, and that was how I left computer science, chose electrical engineering, and ventured into engineering. Now, during my undergraduate, I think in 300 level, I met, this guy has been my departmental mate for a while. I had a friend called, I have a friend that is still my friend called Bosun. So Bosun was like the first person I came in contact with in 200 or 300 level, I can't remember anymore. Bosun was in HNG. I don't know if you're familiar with HNG internship. There's this very big internship in Lagos, Nigeria. It was kind of remote, but yeah, this was in 20, I don't know if it's 18 or 17, 2017. I was part of HNG in 2017, and I actually saw him run the internship. He was coding and all of that. So he spoke to me about it then, and I applied for the next batch in 2018, which I got into. So that was my first introduction to programming. And because of the way the HNG internship is built, it's quite rigorous. So there was a lot of learning on the job, learning on projects, build fast, learning so many things at the same time. So that kind of grilled me, and yeah, I knew this is what I want to do. Like that was like the defining moment for me that okay, I think I would really love to do this.
well? Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dave, for telling us your incredible journey being a software engineer. Like I mentioned earlier, Yeah, senior software engineer, though you not agree with me, right? I would definitely tell you that. That's for sure. Actually. Okay, so there is some seeing this particular episode right now, and the truth is, software engineering seems hard to quite a number of people because it involves coding, right? And not everyone actually, have that flair for coding kind of it. But really, is it really hard? That's the first question that I have. Then to follow up with that, or have you also felt like that before? Yeah. Then how were you able to overcome it? I don't know if you get my question or should I repeat myself?
Yeah, I got your question.
All right, thank you.
To be honest, I think it just comes down to perspective. If you see it as hard, it will definitely be hard. If you see it as easy, it will definitely be easy. And I think almost every career in the world is hard if you look at it from a perspective of hard. And if you see it as easy, then it's easy. It all comes down to learning and having the knowledge to do the job. Because once you have the right knowledge, then it no longer becomes difficult. Also, for what was the second question again?
So have you also felt like that before? Then how were
Yeah,
you able to overcome it?
yeah, in fact, I've definitely felt like that so many times. In fact, the truth is, I even still have imposter syndrome sometimes. I think the imposter syndrome is like a normal thing. Sometimes you feel like you don't know this thing enough. But I feel like or in my own experience, the only way to overcome imposter syndrome, or the only way to actually feel like, or to do it to actually know something is by getting the knowledge that you need. So once you have enough knowledge, I think for me, I kind of overcame it by getting enough knowledge. So the more knowledge I got, the more confident I felt in my abilities that, okay, I actually know this stuff. And even the stuff that I found difficult at the time, I discovered the more knowledge I got about these things, the more I knew it, the more I realized, oh, it's not actually that difficult. It's easy. All you need to know is all you need to know is the right knowledge. And the difference between you not knowing to you knowing is that journey of learning. And the more you learn, the easier it becomes, basically. Software engineering is not difficult. Anybody can get into it.
All right. I happen to be a product designer. All right. So what if I come with the argument that it looks difficult to a lot of people? Okay, so I wanted to ask you, Ayo, what is going to be your advice to someone just maybe leaving tertiary institution right now and looking at getting started with software engineering? How can they get started? There's just a whole lot of materials out there right now. There's a lot of boot camp ongoing, there's a lot of training, and also there's also, on the other side, you also see a lot of layoffs also happening in the space. So does it really worth it? And how can someone that has zero knowledge, how can the person get started?
I think for someone trying to come into software engineering today, I think the first thing I would say is if you can afford a bootcamp, pay for it, go for a bootcamp. But if you can't, the major advantage bootcamp gives is a form of structured learning. So if on your own you can devise a form of structured learning, or in terms of what you want to learn, be dedicated to it and have a timeline or time frame to which you want to do those things on your own, you can then it might not necessarily need a boot camp. You can do it on your own. Secondly, there are a lot of materials out there, definitely, but I would say there's one particular website I recommend to people all the time: roadmap.sh. If you are interested in anything related to software engineering, data engineering, or anything front end, back end, full stack, go on roadmap.sh. Roadmap.sh has kind of devised a form of structured syllabus for things you need to learn. And yeah, so if you can use roadmap.sh, or there are some other materials out there as well, go there, learn follow the syllabus strictly, learn the materials that have been linked to, and also do some research on your own. And also, most importantly, be as curious as possible. Be willing to actually do this thing. Get your hand on projects. Most importantly, get a mentor. Look for someone who can hold your hand and guide you, because that's one of the things I wish I had early on in my career. Yeah, so I always tell people now, get a mentor. Getting a mentor will help you grow fast and help you not learn unnecessary things. Because I personally, my career in software engineering, I've actually touched on a lot of things. My career in software engineering was actually my first programming language was Python. And I came back to writing Python after 6 years, but the last time I wrote Python was 6 years ago. I didn't write Python over the period of, yeah. So you need to get a mentor who will hold your hand, teach you, tell you the things you need to learn and the things not to learn, help you be accountable, hold you accountable rather, and all of that with your timeline, and that way, yeah, you would grow really fast and get into it. You can grow really fast, I believe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's actually apt. And just to reiterate on what you mentioned, roadmap.sh, right? Definitely it's also going to show on the screen as well for people to actually people can check that out. And also getting a mentor is also very important. And most importantly, structured learning, not just picking everything online, not just that is something that has also helped in your journey. And that is also another advice that someone that is just willing to get started should actually pick from it. Okay, so let's move away a bit from people that are getting started. Let's talk about we designers and software engineers in an organization. Okay, so like I said, it's just a chat, right? Definitely for us to just have conversation. But why? I'm gonna ask you a direct question on behalf of every designer that is saying this right now. Ayomide, why do you guys? Sorry, let me say you guys. Why do software engineers, I mean front end engineers to be precise right now, why is it that you don't give us back our design 100% the same way we give to you? There's always a technical constraint, there's always this, and there's always back and forth between designers and front end engineers. So let us know what exactly is the problem. And also, okay, let's start from there before I move to my next question.
Well, actually, you're right about that. There are there are front end engineers who don't give the exact thing back, but also it's kind of the thing I challenged myself with early on in my career. It's very important to pay attention to details, the minute pixels. Especially as a front end engineer, you need to that's the minute pixel. You need to it should be pixel. There's something called pixel perfect, so you can reproduce a design to be pixel perfect. But a lot of times, a lot of front end engineers don't pay that attention. But I've also met front end engineers who actually produce designs that are pixel perfect. So, secondly, sometimes the product designers overdo it in terms of they want a sidebar to fly out from here. They want this bubble to jump off. They want this bringing in so many things that are actually not part of the business goals. Because a lot of times when you give a front-end engineer a very complex design that will probably take 3-4 weeks to implement, and the basic pixel perfect design without all of the extra animations and jamborees in there probably take a week. That 1 week of putting that effort, getting the product out will increase the business's value and all of that. So that's actually accelerates the business goals. Now, if you have, you want your bubble to jump, you want your sidebar to come from underneath, all of that can be done later on when there is time and all of that. But if you are, but for the business, product designers, a lot of product designers overdo it. That's just my take on that. So you can't really fault engineers. You guys overdo it a lot of times too.
So what are you trying to say? We are doing our job. You need to whatever your design needs to be appealing. Then the UI also needs to be very sleek. Let me put it like that. So we're doing our job. So is it our fault? It's not our fault. All right, thank you so much, Oi. But I just wanted to ask you, in what way do you think is best? Okay, let's speak from your experience. How best have you been able to work with product designers or UI UX designers or UX designers or UX researchers, right? How best have you been able to work with them? And what are you going to recommend to other engineers that are actually saying this at this particular?
To be very honest, I think for my experience might be quite skewed in the sense that I've majorly worked on B2B products, and B2B products don't really care much about all of that fancy. Of course, you want your UIs to look good, but I think if you're someone who works on landing page of websites and all of that, then yes, you want all of those animations in. But my experience has majorly been with B2B product dashboards, actual applications, and all of that. So the best of the most pixel perfection that we do is okay. The Figma design looks good and all of that, but we don't have all of those animations. So I've been able to reproduce those pixel perfect designs where you want your borders to be, you want your border to be 2 pixel, you want your this to be that pixel, you want your border radius to be 5 pixel. That's the most I've actually seen, and that's the most pixel perfection I've seen in my own line of of in my own experience, basically. But I know some people, other people also complain where you are, when you're building a website, for example, a landing page, that you expect things to flow out, you expect certain transitions, and a front-end developer, a front-end engineer is not giving you all those transitions you want. Now, that's a different conversation for another day. But yeah, I think front-end developers too should try to, if you're someone who works with a lot with animations, or you work with someone who gives a lot of animations, then as a front-end engineer, you should increase your skill in that aspect to be able to reproduce such designs and all of that.
All right, thank you so much, Ayomide. That's really apt, and I think I can relate because I also have experience working with B2B, and I've worked across B2B and B2C, so it's a totally different space actually. It's a totally different space, right? And I can really relate to what you mentioned. I've been opportune to at least know a bit about your journey, how successful it has been so far, and I would love to ask you. Presently, you work with an AI, AI backed, or is it AI forward? Maybe you just explain that to us. But I know your company is focused fully on AI product, basically, and you've been able to rise from work with different awesome and well recognized organization onto where you are today. So I just wanted to ask you, what are the key things that you did differently that have helped you achieve uh, this certain level of success as a software engineer? And for anyone, maybe a junior software developer or an intermediate software developer that is just trying to get to where you are today, what are the things that you've done that have helped you and they can also start applying right now that could help them? I hope it's not too much to comprehend.
Yeah, I think first of all, I think most of my journey I'll attribute it to God, because I think I found grace in my journey. Also, I would also say I've been quite lucky, and I've been quite fortunate. There's a concept called increasing your log surface area. A lot of people get really lucky because they were able to increase their log surface area. So let me use an illustration where, let's say you have arrows, and those arrows are locks, basically LUCK lock. Now, if you are trying to, and let's say there's a tiny hole in a wall, and you are trying to throw the arrow into the wall, and that hole is very tiny. The probability of you getting that arrow into the wall is very slim, right? But if you're able to increase,
Yes, please go ahead. Yes, I
yeah,
can
can you
hear
hear
you.
me? Okay, yeah. So, but if you're able to increase the width of that hole, the probability of you firing the arrow into that particular hole increases. So that's what I term log surface area. So there are other things and there are ways you can increase your log. I think I've been fortunate. And I've also tried to consciously increase my log surface area so I can kind of get lucky in a way. And the things that kind of increase your log surface area are things like improving your skills, constantly improving your skills. Because if you don't have the right skill, then there's no way you get lucky to, for example, if I've never learned Figma, I've never used Figma, I would never get a job as a product designer. I can never get lucky in that aspect. Also, having the right networking, connecting with people. I think I've been fortunate to get jobs by direct contact with people. So basically, having the right people in your network and all of that. Also, there's there are about five. I can't remember all of the factors anymore. But I think fortunately, I've been able to, yeah, being curious. That's one very important one. Curiosity, being curious about everything. For example, I don't know if you're familiar with Isaac Newton. Were you a science student? Yeah. So if Isaac Newton was never curious
Yes.
about why the apple fell from the tree, there would never be theory of gravity. So that curiosity, Isaac Newton saw the apple fall, and then he was curious that why did this apple fall? What happened? So being curious, asking questions, wanting to learn more about things, those are the things I would say have really helped me. Yeah, I've just been a very curious person.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ayomide. That's really, really apt. And I just want us to narrow it down a bit, right? To a junior software developer in, let me say, startup right now, right? And the person is kind of trying to know how can he move from where he is right now to maybe an intermediate level or a senior level in the software development space. So, is there anything you can tell or advise such a person that is saying this today, knowing that, oh, we're having a conversation with, a senior software engineer based in London, right? And, quite a number of years of experience as well. Moving as a software engineer right now, right? Junior, moving from that junior space into intermediate, into senior, and also even landing all those jobs. Like, what is going to be your advice to junior software engineers in that space?
Yeah, I would say I think it's something I've actually practiced, something I've practiced from very very early on in my career. It's something very simple. Go on YouTube or go on Google and search for senior software engineering interview questions in your particular field, let's say front end or back end. You can even go on YouTube and watch mock interviews. Now, when you watch those mock interviews, look at all of the questions that are being asked in those mock interviews or those articles. When people talk about questions they were asked in their interviews, look at all of those questions and consciously start learning all of those things. So when you watch an interview like that, you should have an answer to all of those questions. And before you know it, and that's I feel like that's like actually the quickest way of going from being a junior to being a senior, because by the time you might not land at that senior spot immediately, but if by the time you practice all of this in no time, you would be on mid-level. I think in Google you can only be a junior for 2 years. They believe if you spend 2 years with Google, you should be at mid-level, so minimum of 2 years. But if you're able to consistently practice, watch these interviews, look out for senior interview questions, look out for what they ask, look out for your knowledge gap, because what you don't know, you don't know. But if you know that you don't know certain things, then you can work towards learning it. So try to look out for that knowledge gap and bridge it basically. That's what I did. I basically went on and was looking out for what are senior software engineering interview questions, what did they ask them? And that was it.
Wow, very apt. And I believe this is going to be very, very beneficial to, everyone that is going to be seeing this, who happens to be in that particular cadre right now. And yeah, so I have just two more questions for you, and then I think we'll be done. Right. And the next question I want to ask is, what's the next big thing for you in your career? And what is fueling the passion?
What's the next big thing for me in my career? I think I would keep that in on a lead for now. But then what is fueling the passion? I would say, I think it's passion for solving problems with technology. I think that's basically it, basically. I just want to solve problems using technology. I want to solve real life problems for people using technology. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just remember the question that I would love to ask you. Do you think the software engineering space is actually saturated? I mean, I've had conversation with quite a number of maybe junior and intermediate engineering folks, and they will always mention, or some of them will say that we have a lot of software engineers, right? We have a whole lot of people even being laid off, right? We have a whole lot of competition in the space. Do you think it is oversaturated? If yes or no, what do you advise for someone to stand out in such a market?
To be very honest, if it's about this saturation thing, I feel like the market has been saturated since 2018 when I got in.
Wow, wow.
So if it's about if you think the market is saturated, then just don't get into it. Because I think, well, I've actually been hearing since for a long time that the market has been, I've been hearing this saturated thing since 2018, that the
Mm,
market is saturated.
mm,
And we are still saying the market is saturated in 2024. And people are still getting jobs. People are
mm.
getting promoted. So where are these people coming from?
Got it. Okay.
So I would say the market will always look saturated, but basically, like what I said earlier, increasing your log surface area, increase your skill, increase your skill level, improve yourself, and I think you just need the right, you just need to be prepared for when the opportunity comes. You just need one shot. You just need one yes. You just need one person to give you a chance. I've actually been in a situation, and it's one of the most painful. I've moved on from it now, but it was one of the most painful things at the point of my career. In 2021, I had an interview with a. I was in Nigeria at the time. 2021, what were we doing? Was that NYSC year? Yes, that was NYSC year. I had an interview with a company in Netherlands. The pay was really good for me living in Nigeria. Like the pay was really good. Like when I say good, good. So, but I went to the interview unprepared, and it's like one of the worst interviews I've ever had in my career. And to be very honest, I thought I was prepared going into the interview, but that interview made me realize I was not ready. I was not ready for. I think that was the last interview I had for a very long time. I stopped
Mm.
applying to jobs. I went back to the drawing board and I knew I needed to learn things. I interviewed with a guy. I've forgotten his name now. I remembered his name for like a year because it was like a trauma for me.
Okay.
It
Okay.
really grilled me. The guy was it was a globally remote team. The guy was in China. The guy had about 12 years of front end experience. I was interviewing for a front end role, and this guy grilled me on certain questions in React at the time that I didn't know. And I wasn't also contributing to open source, so he was asking me core questions in React and if I ever contributed to the React code base itself. So there were certain, and I was coming from a Vue.js background because at the time I was actually using Vue.js, so my knowledge of React is a front end library for building front end web
Mm.
applications, basically. So yeah, it really grilled me at the time, and I felt like that what opportunity came, but I wasn't prepared. And I think that was the point where I made up my mind I would never let an opportunity meet me unprepared. Like I would never, because the opportunity was the perfect opportunity at the time, but that opportunity could have changed my life, honestly. But it met me unprepared. So it was like an eye opener for me.
Mm. Thank you so much. So I think it's the summary of it is just there's no opportunity that someone needs to joke with, right? Because there are some opportunities that before you can get there. Thank you so much, AY, for sharing this with us. I think that last question. Do you have any parting word for fellow junior software engineers or anybody in tech or anybody seeing this that's just interested in tech, kind of a thing, right? Any parting word, anything that has helped you, or anything you just want to share with our audience?
I would say believe in yourself as much as you can. Imposter syndrome is something everyone goes through. I go through it. I've met people, I've had managers as well also go through it at different levels. Imposter syndrome always comes at different levels. Even company CEOs go through imposter syndrome as well. So it's normal. It's normal to also feel like you don't know enough. All you just need to do is increase your knowledge. Whatever you feel like you don't know, learn it and always put your best foot forward. Keep learning, keep growing. Um, yeah, and the sky is the limit, basically.
Great, thank you so much. In case anyone wants to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you? How can they contact you? Kind of.
My LinkedIn is my name. I think Ayomide. My name is Ayomide Apantaku, Apantaku. That's my LinkedIn. I think that's the easiest place to find me.
Okay, okay. Always busy. He's always busy coding, actually. All right, no problem. Thank you so much, Ayomide Fala, for accepting to do this with us. And I believe so strongly that it's been beneficial to everyone that have seen this today. And definitely, it's just so good to have someone that's isn't a designer on the episode this time. And thank you so much, Emily, for accepting our call out of your busy schedule, still making our time. Really, really appreciate you. And everyone I've joined as well, thank you so much. Do not forget to maybe drop a comment and let us know maybe how this have helped you and what you're also looking forward to, basically. Thank you so much. And once again, see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for having me.